To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, Benefield, Brooks, Griswold, Google, Hart, O'Gala, here, Barker, here, Staley, Fearing, here, Humanello, Weigel, Winfrey, here, and Munis. We have a quorum.
Then we have the approval of minutes.
Second.
Motion second. Any additions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. County Administrative Committee executive session minutes. Moved. Second. Any additions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Any old business to bring forward today? Okay, on the new business, we take over, feasibility study. Mr. Paddock?
I'll be joined by Scott Kellinger, who is the department's consulting engineer. Surely. Members of the committee will recall that back in the spring of 2015, we were approached by the Army Corps of Engineers to participate in a jointly funded study to look at the DuPage River flooding situation with a view toward analyzing the impact that it's had on property damage, both up to the present time as well as projecting that into the future. The fundamental rationale for this study was that it would become the basis at some future point in time for seeking federal appropriations to take various mitigation steps to curb the property damage identified by the actions of the river, both in the past and projected into the future. This particular study, just by way of helping you recollect the framework of it, was to be an undertaking of approximately $3 million over a 3-year period. And it was the costs were to be shared by the federal government, taking 50% of the costs, and then the remaining 50% were to be divided equally between DuPage County and Will County. So since that time, we have been making contributions to the financing of this activity. In essence, we have paid out of FY 2016 $384,598.
Let's study this for a second. Right now, financing, did the state renege on theirs and we were?
They most certainly did.
And we put in, so we put in,
Yeah.
the share was really DuPage and Will County.
Yeah, you're correct, sir.
So we paid 100%. Right?
Except for the fence.
No,
Feds still put it.
their total project costs,
Okay.
half of that was being paid by the feds. The remaining half has turned out to be split between DuPage
Okay, got
and
it.
Will
I just
County.
wanted to-
But you were quite correct that the original conception of the project was that that non-federal 50% was going to be split 3 ways. But at a fairly early point in the project, the state indicated that they were not going to be able to financially participate. And that was known to the board when they made
Yeah,
the
yeah,
judgment.
and that's why I'm bringing it up. And then the Fed money did come.
Oh, yes, well, yes, sir, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that all comes through the state. I just want to make sure they pay.
Yeah, oh, yeah, they pay, it's within the Army Corps' budget.
Okay.
So direct federal appropriations to
Okay.
the Army Corps.
All right.
But again, what we paid thus far is $384,598. We have currently in our budget $166,417 that will come out of this fiscal year's budget. And then the balance would be paid out of the 2018 appropriations of about $64,800. Now, the original time frame for this project commenced in July of 2015 and then would be concluded in July of 2018. The principal reason that I wanted to speak with you today is an event has occurred which will result in lengthening the period of the study to July of 2019. And generally when we hear about delays, we think that's not a good thing. I think actually after I explain to you, you will see that this is more of an opportunity than a problem. Much of the study is based upon looking at wide range of engineering considerations, but underlying that is a set of assumptions about rainfall. Obviously, when you have rainfall is when it impacts the river and when you get floods. The principal source of data used not only for this study, but every time we do a site development plan, anytime we look at drainage issues, the common frame of reference, not only for the county or other jurisdictions, but for the engineering industry, is a set of data that's put in something called Bulletin 70. And Bulletin 70 is published by the Illinois Water Survey. It's based, if you can believe it or not, it's based on rainfall data that goes back to what was going on in 1940. Obviously, things change over time. Well, there has not been an update since that time. So we make all these assumptions based upon very old data. Well, the event that has occurred, which will result in the period of time of this project being lengthened, is that I can't explain where they found the money, given that this is an Illinois state agency, but the Illinois State Water Survey has recently announced that they have funding and the intent to proceed with an update of the rainfall precipitation data, which is not only going to look at historical data, but then we'll extrapolate from that to look out how many years into the future?
They'll publish it for the current year, so it'll be this year. So basically up to this year.
Right. So consequently, it'll be much more current. Now, what is the likely effect of that? In the study that's gone forward thus far, and I might add with a great deal of intergovernmental cooperation amongst all Will County municipalities, or certainly those that are affected by the DuPage flooding situation, there has been some tentative indication of the level of damages that result from the periodic flooding of the DuPage. And it's quite extensive. It's quite extensive and quite a problem, and shows why we felt this needed to be studied in the first place. However, with the availability of this updated rainfall information, it's anticipated that when it's plugged into all the formulas that's been developed for the study, it will show a much higher degree of potential damage resulting from flooding events. Why is that relevant? Remember that the entire purpose of this study is to position us so that at some point in the future, we could then go to the federal government and say, here's the documentation of why we have a really severe problem, why you should make appropriations for various kinds of projects to mitigate the flooding. If we show a greater degree of damage to property and other negative economic impacts, that will enhance the likelihood that our request for appropriations will be perceived as more worthy than it would have been the case if we had based it on this old data. So with that background, what I wanted to share with you is that the completion date will be extended from July of 2018 to July of 2019. So it'll be a little longer before we have the final data, but the good news certainly is that this will have absolutely no impact on what the cost expectations are from Will County. It will remain exactly as was originally agreed to and what I just outlined to you. So I think that's the essential point that I wanted to make to you so that you'd be aware where we are right now, what this change is, how it will benefit us, but will have no budgetary impact beyond original
So
commitments.
there'll be no additional cost.
That's correct.
Those are things like the 100-year rain that comes every 10 years and not a 10-year rain? Is that kind of thing?
That's potentially correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that would be helpful, actually. Because, yeah, I do get a kick out of the 100-year rank. We did 3 of those in the last 5 years, yeah, so, okay, that would be helpful. And why does it cost us that more money? We're going to have probably more complete study, I think.
Does that mean that since this is gonna go 2 more years, we can spread the final cost over the 2 years' budgets?
Well, that's a very good question. I have always indicated to the Army Corps project managers that even our anticipated payment of $166,417 out of this fiscal year's funds, until they reached a benchmark with their first deliverable on the overall study, which is called the TSP, which is now going to be delayed a little bit further. I have told them, we're not going to pay you the money. We're not going to pay you the money. So it was written, that benchmark was supposed to have been reached by July. It'll now be pushed forward. And so my point is, we're not going to pay it until the very last point in the fiscal year. But more directly to your question, I suppose it could be possible that if the board appropriated the money, we could carry it over and have that total remaining expenditure in a subsequent fiscal year.
And I think you're correct. It's based on the deliverable of the study.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, any other questions? Kurt, thanks for the update.
All right, sir.
Next, we have the authorizing the emergency purchase of a dishwasher at ADS. Dishwasher shot, so need replaces. So we have a motion.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, authorizing 2-year contract extension for telecommunications, local and long distance service. Is there a motion? Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing equipment surplus and authorizing donation and disposal. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing a intergovernmental agreement with Champaign County for electronics recycling. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing an IGA with Shanahan Township for electronic recycling. Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing renewal of wraparound professional liability insurance for Community Health Center. Authorizing IGA with City of Lockport for electronic recycling.
Second.
And motion
They all
second, all in
modern
favor?
anyway. They all modern anyway.
Yeah.
So we didn't.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now the wraparound liability insurance. Is Mr. Sidwell here? I know this is, the reason Bruce, I think we all probably know what this is.
Sure.
But now I want to bring up the subject. We've had our current carriers for quite a while. 5 years maybe?
Are you talking about the
broker? The broker and.
Wood and this is
Talking about Mesro.
yeah, they've been
Probably more Mesro than.
yeah. We've been with Metro probably about 5 years.
So I think it's time for us to go out and pick up the market, see what we have to say. We do it about every 5 years. This isn't mandatory. There's no reflection on current.
We may decide to choose them again, because we want to see what's out there.
So the renewals take place when, I want to get the timing right.
Renewals take place fiscal year, so but we have to bring them to the board usually in October or November, usually it's November.
So we would have to start on that.
We would start on it pretty quick, like April, May. Yeah.
We're in April now.
We have a pretty canned RFQ.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mary, we could probably go what we had last time, RFQ. I think you just go on what we have and let's get it out there.
Not much has changed.
Yeah, really. So it would be for liability, workers' comp.
Well, it's general liability, workers' comp, property, professional liability, you know, law enforcement, all those.
Okay, so,
Nursing home.
well then, Bruce, because we do have a can, can we get it out at the end of the month?
I will roll the dust off and get a list of,
And then, it does take some time, we get here from a lot of firms, we usually chose down to the management side, and those firms we think we
usually
get
get
most
like 3
likely.
days to do
Okay,
everything on.
so if we got it out, let's just say May first,
Yeah, they're done.
and then, how much time do you usually allow?
I would like to probably bring them back and, have some presentations in July. And that gives them time to go to market once you decide
Okay,
for the fiscal year renewal.
so you get that out then, as soon as you can.
I can do that, yeah.
And then, have them return their responses, say, in, like, say, mid-May, and then it gives us time to review them.
Well, yeah, we want to give them at least 30 to 45 days to
Put something together.
respond.
Right.
Yeah.
So by June first.
Right, so we want to be able to review them and then,
All
we'll
right.
have probably like 4 from,
Whatever the timetable is, I always give you an aggressive timetable, that way.
I know, we, little cushion there, we know.
Okay, so, I just
We
want
work
to.
backwards from where our due date
I
is.
just want to make sure that we allow enough time, because there's times where we haven't, and then it's kind of, we're rushing and they're
Right,
rushing.
and things do take time sometimes,
Yeah,
so we
so-
do want to work backwards from that
Right.
absolute deadline.
Okay. So,
Does the current firm, and if we have the option of renewing them, have to go through the same process as well?
Yes,
Even
they
though
will.
They
they
have
do?
to give the proposal and.
Absolutely.
Sharpen their pencil.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah, that's right, which has now been, purchased by Hawaiian.
Well, that's another reason I'm thinking that we need to do it.
Measurable line,
These-
which essentially will just.
They merged and so forth, so and I think it's just a good idea.
I do.
We've gotten too comfortable way in the past, you know, I'm probably the only one who's around from that era. You know, funny things happen. People said to me in sermon. You know, I'll just leave it at that, so.
And we haven't
So
had.
we've had kind of a policy,
Right.
unofficial policy, really, we should say about every 5 years we go out. you
Yeah,
know.
3 years is too soon for a program like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I agree, 5 years.
Okay, and AI is more of a consulting.
They are, and we can discuss that. We renewed with them for 3 years in June, but they've had some shakeups and changes. But they're doing some good work for us now with
And we've lost one of the main people that work with us, man.
star person, yeah.
So things change there too. I wouldn't, you know, and when? In another year?
Yeah, she got an opportunity.
So we've lost
Pass it off.
part of our team with AI, so.
But she handpicked her replacement, so,
Well, that's, you know,
and they listen to her, you know, so that says something.
so you don't think we've lost much there. Okay, but even then, we should take a look at it. But certainly the brokerage.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so, all right.
All right, but this wraparound, even though we go through Mesero, it's really a totally separate program because it's a very unique product for the.
And, you know, and Bruce, I think that also gives this committee, as the insurance committee, and, you know, and the county board, it does give us an opportunity also to look at how our insurance coverage actually kind of works.
And it's important because there's new members that probably haven't gone through the
So like
cycle.
when you say this is kind of set aside, some of the medical, the nursing home is separate and a certain is placed separately. And so we can talk about 6, 7, 8, an opportunity to talk about the overall program. I want you to find that people who come in, who may give presentations, sometimes you need some, you know, they have a different approach that is worth looking at, you know, so.
Right, so we juggle our risks.
Yeah, so we change things around, so.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, Bruce.
But I'm gonna sit here because I think I'm now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, so we got the restaurant insurance, we got a motion? Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next we have, number 9, new hire, pre-posted for HR department.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce and I have talked about this. This is a position that we've left vacant for some time.
It is.
And now it feels that
So,
it needs to be filled.
if you want me to just give a brief overview of it.
Yep.
Okay. So I put together a 5-year operational plan back in 2015, and this is part of that plan. We're in the middle of that 5-year operational plan, and this is right at the point where this position is truly needed. We've made some adjustments in the past. When Pat Kelly, our payroll director, and she was also our IMR authorized agent, she retired. So I shifted some responsibilities, and Joan Stewart is our new IMR authorized agent. And the goal is to also make her our leave of absence coordinator, because now it's kind of hodgepodge. We have different people working on different types of leaves, and we'd like to pull that into her responsibility. Well, it's difficult to do that now because she's still working on payroll as well, but not ready. And we're gonna be moving to a new ERP HR finance system, a much broader, robust system. So what this position will do is it will pick up Joan's current legacy payroll functions, so Joan can move on to fulfill her new roles. But on top of that, it's really an expanded business and payroll analyst position. Because we're moving to this new system, we need somebody internally that's kind of like an HRIS specialist. So it's a quasi-IT HR person who can go out into the departments as well as internally to establish and document business processes for the payroll function. Because every department's different. Sheriff's Department, they have over 600 employees. They use Kronos, but they're 24/7. They've got all these different types of pays, and the way they do payroll is different than the way Health Department does, or Sunnyvale, and none of it's documented, by the way. So we need these business processes documented. We're a big organization, and really should be done, and we need somebody who has those skills that can actually not only document it, but then also improve upon, establish new business process based upon the system that's coming in. And work with our vendors to say, well, this is how we've done it in the past, and this is how our union contracts say we need to do things. Can we do it better? Document it and train our departments on how to do it. And then going forward, this person will be continuous improvement on the payroll process for the town.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it, especially if it helps with things like nationwide, that we still haven't gotten that one.
We've got a meeting scheduled.
I know,
out front.
I know.
Yes.
So we will,
Because that's hurting our employees.
it is.
Some people are still, especially those that are a little older, want to get into those fixed accounts that are a pretty good return.
Yes, absolutely. There are still
So
some
hopefully this
concerns,
will-
but hopefully we can get them all straight.
Okay, so, all in favor of the motion?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then, when do you plan on, bringing it in forward next month?
Well, I'm gonna post it today.
Okay.
So it's posted till the 24th. Right, I'm bringing it back in May. yes.
And when do we advertise this? I mean, I'm assuming there may not be many internal candidates.
Well, we do post internally, and then we do post locally. We post into the minority papers, we post in Times Weekly and Hoy, but we also post online through Monster, through the Trib, and Career Builder, and then we'll go to some of the more specific sites for government and for technology. Yeah.
Okay. So we use any, when we're looking for specialized people, do we use, I hate to use, I'm sure.
We don't use recruiters.
Okay, we don't use recruiters.
Little at times. They want 30% of the first year's pay. I don't have that in my budget.
Nick, you know.
Professional HR sites.
Yeah.
All right, well, the thing is even though 30% sounds high, maybe not in this particular case, I think probably in some instances it's probably.
Some instances, yes. I've used it in my past jobs, but not all the time. If you have good recruiters, you can find people.
Okay.
Hopefully we will. In fact, I did interview some people for this other position that I had filled a few months ago, and they were so wrong for that position, but they were really right for this position. So maybe they're still available, I don't know. Hopefully. Thank you.
Is there HR type publication?
Absolutely. Sure are.
Okay, know what you're saying.
There's both the public sector ones, there's Italra, and then.
Do we put something in those publications?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're members. Yeah,
Okay.
By the way, yeah.
I get the one, I think.
Well, you probably, you get the ITM, HR.
Yeah.
Illinois Public Management.
Yeah, yes, well, okay.
Quite a few of them. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right. Number 10, replacement hire, pre-posters to the EMA. Okay, gonna come up and get the third degree now, why you need people.
I thought by now you'd have it all out of your system.
Yes, right, no one be first. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. If I may just briefly give you a little update on this. As you know, we maintain the radio system for the county agencies and a lot of local agencies, and as you also know, we're in the midst of replacing that system with a new one. We are definitely getting into high gear mode right now with that. We just took delivery of all of the subscriber equipment, the portables. I have 15 pallets of radios stuffed in our garage at Laraway right now. In about 2 months, the tower climbers are going to start doing their work on the sites, and our target right now is September for the cutover date from old to new. And one of the real big challenges, among other challenges on this project, is we need to also coordinate the replacement, the installation of mobile radios in the existing fleet. So we've got about 350 vehicles, sheriff's vehicles, highway vehicles, and we need to try to get the old radios out, get the new radios in, and try to minimize the disruption on the street. There will be a period of time where some cars will have old ones and some will have new ones. We can't do them all overnight. That takes some time, but suffice it to say we're running at high speed, and I think all of you know Ed Bean, our radio manager. Ed's been with the county for 19 years. Came to us at the beginning of our current system after a 37-year career with the state police communications. So Ed decided to retire. His last day was March 31. So he didn't want that's a lot of fanfare. He just wanted to go off into the sunset. And his wife's retiring at the same time from her job, so worked out well for them. Trying not to lose a beat on where we're at. I've tapped this gentleman here, Tom Murray. Tom's an existing member of the EMA staff. And Tom is picking up on the radio management functions right now. So he spent March getting up to speed with Ed on where things are at. So we don't lose any momentum. We don't lose our target dates on the system. So this position is essentially to replace the radio headcount manpower. Some of Ed's duties will shift to Tom, and some other duties will do, round robin, but essentially this is a communications function position that we're replacing.
So Tom is taking Ed's place.
Yeah, I say that.
So a different dude.
Right.
Well, the reason I'm asking is this person's not, so not replacing.
No.
So who's replacing that?
Tom is taking on the radio management functions. Now, Tom will still have some other duties in EMA, but
So then Tom, we need to replace Tom's current function?
some of Tom's current functions, like for example, Tom takes care of some other communications related equipment that we have. That'll certainly go to this person. Some of Ed's functions will go to this position, but Tom will be handling like the management of things, tower leases and things like that.
In these cases, Melissa, I'd kind of like to look at the budget in the sense of, I don't know what Tom is currently making, I don't know what Ed was making. I assume Ed was up there because of longevity and so forth. Sometimes I'd like just to see the impact on the budget. You know, that there will be some maybe additional money there because of different starting salaries or whatever. So, give you a raise, Tom?
I've just been teasing with to this point.
That makes my point.
Definitely this position will be at a lower, pay scale than the ones being vacated. I do intend to make some adjustments to, accordingly. Everything I plan to do is budget neutral in my current budget.
Well, no, I would assume it would be budget neutral, but it would be, perhaps, it creates surplus in the budget, the salary line items. I want to be aware of that. When we budget going forward. So I think in these instances, it would be nice to see the impact on the budget, whether it's a positive or negative potential impact, because we'll have a positive impact because of its salary. And its predecessor won't be quite there because of longevity and so forth, and maybe experience. Ed came in a very experienced person. So compensated pretty well coming in. I just think that we need to take a look at that too. It would be nice to just get a little synopsis of how it impacts the budget. In some instances, it could negatively impact the budget. We could have gotten a bargain on somebody, now they go out to the market, it's going to be more expensive. So, okay. So I don't have any problem. I don't think we're going to have a problem with the highway. So I'll entertain a motion for the pre-posting. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Harold.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Tom, I think. You can let me know later. Congratulations. Okay. Next is proclamations.
Yes, we have two vests. Don will read one from the desk.
Recognizing Tom
Comcast Care.
and then Lauren will just make the announcement of our coming for
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Keep them short.
Yeah.
Shirtless? It could be ugly. Could be ugly for some. Okay. Okay, so, entertain a motion on the proclamations. Move second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Then before we get to appointments, I do want to go back and perhaps put something on I guess I'd be putting on the Public Works agenda. You got a request from Romeoville. Get a letter from Romeoville. So it's going to be for Mayor Simon? Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure it's on. Okay. That's all good. Okay, all right, then we'll move along here. Placed by the county executive for the appointment for county board District 6 to be distributed. There has been a person whose name would come forward. Next, then we have so I would get a motion on that. Move second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. We got the April 17 appointments to boards of commission. Appointments with the county executive.
We showed two people for District 11, or one. And I think one of them is going to be District 5.
They'll be right. We'll clarify that in a second. First, we're gonna do this, number 2, which is the appointments to boards and commissions. Is there any others besides just the stormwater?
I think, well, the appointments, as board members know, we submit those the previous month.
Right.
And the one town I think you're referring to was labeled District 11 last month when it was submitted. It was previously held by Mark Trinowski, who was the highway commissioner up there, and Phil Alstrom now is the highway commissioner. It wasn't caught before it was submitted, but he doesn't live in District 11, so that we've had some back and forth on that. He's actually in County Board District 5. So the board office has now, but I don't believe it's on your iPad, is there's a new revised form, hopefully the final form, which has a lady named Teresa O'Grady, who's a resident of County Board 11, that we believe is well qualified, was recommended by one of the board members in that district for District 11 to replace that voting member. There's also alternate members on the stormwater, and that's where Mr. Alstrom will be appointed as an alternate in County Board 5, where he lives. We were told that we could actually appoint people from outside their districts, but we didn't think that was a good practice to start. And we try to work with board members to come to some consensus in their respective districts of who, we have some board members who sit on that, obviously, and we have just general public who sits on this as county reps. But there is voting members and there's alternate members. Mr. Alstrom, who's the current highway commissioner, is going to go in as an alternate. And I've talked to Darren and Gretchen, and they were supportive of that. So, but could I bring up one issue, Mr. Moose, as well? The one thing we might want to consider going forward, and I haven't investigated how we do that, is putting terms on the stormwater district appointees, just because there are no terms currently. And it's not that we want to push people off the board, but it gives our office a tool periodically to go to the members and say, do you want to continue to serve? If yes, let us know. If you feel like you've done your time and you're ready to step off, it gives them kind of an opportunity to say yes or no. Because we have a problem with that committee often of getting forums and having people participate. And as we heard earlier, we have this major study going on, which is very, very important. When that work's all completed, there's going to be a recommendation, and hopefully Congress is going to appropriate some money to help fix some of the needs. But that's not true with just stormwater, it's other boards too. Gives us a chance to ask people, do you want to continue to serve?
No appointments are lifetime.
Yeah.
The only thing I would, Mary, allude to you is, the Stormwater Management Committee is created by state statute. And I would say just review the statute, see if we can, how we get through terms. There may be some provisions in that statute that say, you get staggered terms, or 2-year, 4-year, or whatever. So we'll see if there's some guideline in that statute that tells us what the terms, okay?
You could maybe put it in the bylaws that it's a term.
I just want to make sure that it's in sync with the statute. There may be, I'm hoping there's ways of staggering it, actually.
I think that's probably the way it should be.
Yeah,
Yeah. Turnover.
yeah. So, okay, so we'll look at that. Absolutely. I think it's a good idea, actually. The only lifetime is, federal judges and Supreme Court justices. That's the only lifetime appointments that I'm aware of. All right.
Thanks.
We'll take care of that. Okay. Motion to approve the appointments. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Okay, hang on here, on the other new business. Place a resolution on the county board agenda confirming the county executive to execute the RTA application for the mobility management projects grant. We'll do this. I mean, this is something we've done the last couple of years, I actually think, right? This is to help get us the money for our mobility program.
The paperwork just came in, and the practice has been, if we have a grant application that's due, if we can't get it to a committee, we just submit it and bring it back to Parliament. This we just got, and there's still time if the board approves it to get it.
We can't take action here, we'll move it on to the full county board, so a motion to place this on the county board agenda.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Mary, you have anything on any opinions that may have out there yet?
I don't think we have anything out there.
I don't think so either, but I, okay, so now we get to, reports. Mr. Wyo, you have anything on land use that you'd like to mention?
We've got one zoning case, a special use permit for ancillary liquor sales. This is on Highway Route 53 south of Joliet. It was a former restaurant that went out of business. They had a license before. Now someone else is taking it over and going to rebuild the business, and they wanted to get a liquor license. The committee recommended approval on it.
You know, I think this is probably appropriate, but you know, Jim, and Mary, you know, our current ordinance says, you know, that if a license, you know, we've limited the amount of licenses, and when the license is given up, at least my anticipation is that the county board be notified to make a determination whether we want to eliminate that license, by the amount of license we've approved, and whether we would just let it go forward as a kind of a transfer to a new owner. Now, I do think there should be computations for business to sell and let that license go forward. If you approve the person, the background is checked out, yeah, there has to be a method to do this. Because I think the intent of the county board was when a license is given up and there's a lapse in that business, that license goes away. And then you have to come back to the county board to get we would amend the ordinance to reduce the license. It says we have the opportunity to amend the ordinance to increase the licenses. So a lot of this has to do with, is there been, in my view, is there been a gap? You know, is this a business that's been out of business for 6 months? Was there a 2017 liquor license issued? So I don't think it's, I know I'm getting to the technical side of this.
Well, it went out of business a couple of years ago. They have to
Well,
reapply.
then that license, I would say two things. That license then is not available. You would have to come back. If it's gone out 2 years ago, then it's probably not in the licenses that were approved.
They have to apply for a liquor license.
And I question if they need a special use, if it hasn't been utilized in 2 years, is that special use for liquor even valid?
Well, I think that's what is up on the agenda, is to approve a new special use for that business. My recollection of the ordinance, and I have to pull it out because we did rewrite it, but I thought we had a set number of licenses, so it is presently there unless it was reduced,
Well,
and it does not sound like it was reduced.
But my point is that I believe the intent was that, and there was discussion on it, that when a license was given up, that we would be notified. I realize we didn't reduce it. I realize it's within perhaps the parameter. But when a liquor license is given up, and it was the intent of the board to reduce the number of liquor licenses allowed under the ordinance. So then they would have to come back and request, you know, would be an ordinance change to increase it again. You know, this idea that if people get a license and there's this pocket of floating licenses out there for business availability, was not, I don't think, the intent of the board. You know, we approved the amount of licenses that were issued.
So, can I approve them?
Well, we didn't really, there was never a number.
No, we just,
Okay.
yeah.
We just
There was
capped
never a
it
number.
where it was, where it was.
Dancing up there. Look, if it's been closed for 2 years, it's no business. It's a new business, and new owner. So who gave up a liquor, so there was no liquor license issued in 2016, 17, 15, for this. So there was no license. I want to see where the cap is on this license. Is there a license available? Who gave one up?
It's like a year and a half, I think it's been.
Well, who gave a license up? This would be an extra license. Why is there any available? We should have reduced it. We should have been notified. That was our intent, I believe. Otherwise, we're in the same situation we were before. You know, it was never to have extra licenses out.
Well, we kept, wherever it was at, we kept, meaning we could never issue more licenses.
But the intent was to reduce it when the people gave the license up. Otherwise you would have the same, you'd have the same situation. You know, if we're not informed if there's licenses, we could say, well, we'll leave an extra one or 12 or if you want. But the intent was, is we're right back in the same situation. Because they can go anywhere. They can go anywhere. And I think we may have done it, you'd have to, and I do think we kept it high classification, didn't we? So. I can't hear you, Mary, because there's too much chattering. Go ahead and say it again.
My recollection, and I'll have to verify this, is that we not only had caps for the types of uses, but we had an overall cap. Because we did want there to be a few out there clothing for temporary type uses. And we wanted some latitude with regard to that.
For temporary, this is permanent. I would tell you that, you know, I have an issue with this. Actually issuing a license. You know, I do think there could be some flexibility. You know, part of that is we have this concentration of liquor licenses in certain areas of the county. And the idea was, well, if there's a lot of licenses here, none over here, and somebody over here has none, you know, let it go over there if there's one available. But don't put another one where you have this heavy concentration of liquor licenses, of all the same type, basically.
And you know, that situation is relatively new. We were dealing with it in a recent combined land use and ostensibly would be a request for a license that was withdrawn. And, you know, what we told anybody that's applying is that it's a two-step process. You need, say, special use.
Couldn't you start? Couldn't you start?
You need a special use or the rezoning to allow it from a zoning point of view, because that's one of our checkoffs in the application. And you're gonna need, in that case, this person was informed that you're gonna have to request from you folks an increase in whatever category you're looking for.
And that was the intent. Right?
And what happened is it was withdrawn, and we haven't been down that route, but, you know, without going into the history, because it's smooth, because it's been withdrawn, it's a different process, because it's not a land use matter to increase the license, it's your purview. So one of the things I think we're trying to wrap our heads around, should that go to executive, legislative, because it's a new process, because when this was started, as you remember, Mr. Moose, we had all sorts of licenses. We had a huge surplus, and the reality is, because of all the annexations, we have less licenses than we did 10, 15 years ago, because we've had a number lost to Homer, Lockport, you know, where they've annexed some of these malls and strip malls. So, you know, we were just working that process through, but it didn't come to you because you went through the application for the land use matter. But I think that was the intent.
Yeah, okay, I just want to.
Yeah, you know.
So what's this person asking?
Special use permit for liquor sales.
he has a clear understanding that there may not be a liquor license available. Right?
Yeah, I mean, this was, what was it, Mr. B's, I think, was the name? Yeah. Yeah, and I think, yeah, so, you know, if you don't get the rezoning or special use, then it's moot about, you know, adding the license. So we're wrestling with that. And one thing I guess we'll ask you is, how should that be processed in terms of the increase? Should that go through your committee?
Would that be a change in the ordinance?
Yeah. So through executive, is that?
Yeah, you come to the executive committee, would be amending the ordinance? We have to have a public hearing. It would be a change.
Because the simple ordinance is, let's say, increasing the A's by 1, or, you know, C2 by 2.
But it's still, you know, you have to go through public hearing on changing the ordinance. I mean, I certainly, local, I think that support or non-support will play a crucial role. And support by those county board members, or non-support by those county board members of the district. I just want to make sure that the applicant and the clear understand that, you know, you've gotten the special use, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get a license, because currently there's not a license available. It does have to go through this process.
And that's what we informed this
Okay.
would-be licensee. The problem was, he really didn't understand the process. In fact, what was Bonnie asked me about as a county board member. You know, it's a 2-step process. I mean, we don't even get into, in fact, didn't even realize that there were background checks. We don't even get into the background checks and fingerprinting unless there's a license and unless, you know, land use, it's gone through land use for rezoning, special use, whatever, because it's moot to apply when there's nothing there. And so, you know, this was the first time that I think we had to direct, hey, you need to go to the county board also for an approval of an additional license in whatever category you want.
Sorry, maybe you should. Okay, that, we know, better in the sense that, you know, we are following that process. We are informing people who have an interest in the process. And, you know, I don't want to, you know, but I don't like to hear any of that stuff. None of us like to hear it all. You know, I've spent all this money getting this stuff to use, and now I can't get a license. You know, they should understand that it's something that's, it's a risk, but it's the, you know, you're spending money, you're gonna get this, and you're taking the risk, and it could be no more than a 50-50 chance that this board would want to increase the number of liquor licenses without, you know, without a license actually becoming available in that category. But geographically, I think we can also take a look at, well, there's none in the area, maybe we can consider that. So I just will hope it's made clear.
Yeah, in our office, you know, had no issue. That's a legislative decision, how many licenses and what categories, if you want to change the categories.
Mr. Paddock, do we let them know that, hey, you know, this doesn't mean you're gonna get a license?
I'll let the zoning administrator comment on that subject.
These people that we are talking about, the current special use permit, have been informed that they may not get a license. So they know that, and they chose to go forward.
And actually, you know, and this is a relatively new process because we had this huge surplus.
I think this is the first time.
Yeah, and we've, you know, told them, you know, make sure you talk to the county board, talk to, you know, whoever your representatives are. But we can't go any further. I mean, they have to, you know, do their own due diligence.
No. That's it. No.
What is it?
Yeah, cost just yeah, but now it's in 6.
Oh, it's in 6?
Yeah,
Okay.
this doesn't sound good.
Okay.
Jim, doesn't it almost seem a little backwards? Shouldn't they know if they're gonna get a license before they spend money for a special use?
No, it doesn't work. You can't even apply unless you have a special use. That's always been the case.
I understand that, but because our case, the one who withdrew was from District 9 about a couple weeks ago. So he spent the money and then found out there wasn't even a liquor license available. So, I mean, and it's been taken care of, and there's a new process in order through land use, but.
Well, let me say, it's a new process, right? But let me say, that's always been the case. Always been the case. And I can tell you that I personally did special use permits, not necessarily in this here, and then didn't get a license. It was always the case here. You had to get the special use. Didn't mean you were gonna get a liquor license, right? It's always been the case.
And then here's another thing that, you know, has been overlooked.
Something came up in your background or something, you know.
You could create, you know, an additional license that could get a special use or rezoning, and then the liquor commissioner could decide not to give them the license because of the background or some other factor. You know, there's a whole checklist required by state law and our ordinance, which pretty much mirrors state law. And they could go through all that, and the county executive with the liquor commission, like the mayor is in a village or a city, and could say no.
Right. I mean, there's an appeal process, but he could say no.
Yeah, they go to the state liquor commission.
Yeah, say it. But so that's always been a risk, always. You know, maybe not as you know now there just could not be a license available. There was always the potential to be a license would be issued. It's not even your background check. You got management people; they got to pass the background checks and all that other stuff. So. You know, people have to be on premises so many hours, and it's more complicated to make things, we would say here.
Yeah, and, you know, they've got to have a lease that shows that they either have a right to, you know, to occupy that property, or they have to own the property, and, you know, health department checks. I mean, Marie tries to simplify for people, but it's still incumbent upon the applicant to know what they need to do and either figure it out themselves or hire an attorney who knows what they're doing. But it isn't just a rubber stamp. I mean, it's, you know, it's one of the things you hold a lot of power in, both legislatively, and the liquor commissioner does use discretion.
Does it say on our website whether or not there's a license available, because people go onto the website and know that they have that information?
Yeah, and you know, the reality, Denise, is we haven't gotten that many requests because most of the growth is occurred in the incorporated areas. I mean, most people aren't looking for an unincorporated county license anymore.
Okay, I see Mike there. Mike has got on all this and Hey, Mike, I just want to, well, I see you there. You know, you can talk, but you know what? I see you often enough. I don't need to see your face. You know. Did they say something to you about those microphone system in the boardroom? It's acting crazy.
Yeah.
Coming
The
on.
pictures aren't coming up. I was lost.
Land use did it.
Well, I don't know. I just might be.
I'll check it out.
You know, the other day, first we had problems with it.
When I looked at it last time, we had no problems.
Well, like mine.
For you, I'll make it.
Well, I would say it was kind of acting up.
Okay.
That's all.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Kurt, did you have something?
Well, we certainly don't want to make, you know, policy on the fly here, but I just mentioned that consideration going forward perhaps should be given to whether we really need this split process at all. You know, there are situations, as I think Mr. Harvey just sort of indicated, in municipalities where the kinds of considerations about the merits of a particular application would be addressed totally within the licensing process for the liquor operation. The special use criteria that are used in a situation like this are not any different than the special use criteria that are applied for any other type of use. They're not specialized with respect to liquor considerations like minimum setbacks from schools or things of that nature. So the only advantage, I think, of the present notion is that, as we know from other kinds of potentially controversial projects, ideas, that with the special use process, you do have a public noticing process, and you have hearings that allow affected citizens to comment, which at present there are not separate public hearings, to the best of my knowledge, for the issuance of the liquor license itself. However, one could conceptualize an approach where, for simply the licensing process, that there could be a public notice and there could be a hearing. I'm just simply saying that it's inherently confusing, I think, to anybody to have to deal with two separate processes, two separate agencies. So I guess as we move forward under our continuing consideration of this, we might want to consider whether there is really public benefit to maintaining this somewhat split process.
Well, I'm for looking at, and I think we're not saying, basically, should we make our license available before they go for social use? I don't know how municipalities are, because this is how most municipalities work, and I believe they have to increase the licenses and decrease them if they see fit, I guess, but,
In practice,
I'm open to it. I think the board would be open to looking at, looking at a process that may be more conjoined than rather. So, any suggestions that Jim, you may have, or Kurt? Maybe some, the executive's office could review it. The land use department and the liquor license and so forth are all in the executive branch. So maybe you can talk, and if you have a method you think would improve the system, why don't you bring it forward for discussions? And Reagan, you can jump in there too. Let's see what we can come up with that would be a benefit to the public and applicants. All right? Sure. I don't know what else to say.
I just wanted to ask a question, Jim, as far as how this impacts a company that is holding a license and then is wanting to sell that company. Because it doesn't transfer, so how do you determine value?
But I think that if there's a continuous, I think if there's a continuous use in those cases, and Jim, this may be another area that we have to firm up, that the buyer can apply for the license, as long as there's always going to be no disruption in the business. We would just let the new buyer come in and put in the application, and then we'd go into review of the liquor commissioner.
and the answer, Darren, is that, yeah, by law, it's not transferable. State statute, our ordinances say that. Practically, people who are at all sophisticated about, buying and selling of businesses make sure that, in terms of their background checks and those kinds of things, there's probably not going to be a problem. They're going to have correct managers. Because, the reality is with the background checks is people who are going to have a problem know that going in, so they don't usually apply like in a vacuum.
Yeah.
That's why you sometimes will have a spouse or, different business entities, because people know if they've got problems in their background, they know better than anyone. Yeah.
So we do allow that. I don't know if we have to clarify that in some way.
I'll have to review it.
Yeah. And it's usually not a problem. Yeah, they'll usually make an appointment and say, hey, what's the process, and here's who we're proposing to sell it to. We can't, guarantee anything, but most of the time that's not been a problem. because they're not gonna submit managers or ownership that has all sorts of problems that we're gonna reject. But I mean, it's not as a matter of right transferable. It still has to go through the background check, the prints, everything, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna work on this, we'll try to make it, and this applicant understands that at the moment they're taking a risk that they would not. Okay.
I hope Tom don't have any more. That's it.
Tom, you see if I went suicide, I'll take the blame for that.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, thanks, Tom. Any questions for Tom? Finance, any questions? Mike, do you have anything? Any questions for Mike?
Anything special? You have questions?
Public Works, anything on Public Works? Rules on here.
You know, we don't have anything to move forward to the board, but I guess I should just inform you that the chief judge did come in this month and discuss some of the changes that are happening over the judge is making, actually. One of the changes is there's this law that's floating around at the state level. There's two of them, I believe they're HB 678 and SB 1799, and what it has to do with is the juvenile holiday courts. Chief Judge told us this month that you know, there really is no standard time process that juveniles are required to see a judge. And, however, adults, typically it's 48 hours. And so, as of April 1st, the Chief Judge has implemented a new process that now juveniles will be in front of a judge within 48 hours. And so that started right away. I don't believe that the legislation is on the floor for HB 678 and SB 1799. Let me clarify the differences between those, and Suzanne may or may not, I'm not sure how much she knows about this, but HB 678 is 24 hours that they believe the juveniles should be in front of a judge. SB 1799 is a 48-hour requirement. The Chief Judge believes that we can meet the intent that HB 678 is trying to establish by 24 hours by approving the SB 1799. So if you do talk to your representatives, and this does come up, we're looking for support on the SB 1799.
The Senate bill, the Senate bill is actually what they had gone through with the Illinois Association of Counties, where they were negotiating, and that was what they were coming for the 48 hours. The 24-hour was nothing of that of negotiation, nor is that something that any one of the counties throughout the state are in favor. So yeah, we are in no way in support of that. So this has been that fight. It's not, like right now it's in a stalemate, but hopefully.
Yep. So.
And there was, I'm going to tell you, there was a little bit of confusion from your last meeting that was saying about, talking about having holiday court, and so that kind of threw Illinois Association of Counties, because they said, what are you guys doing? Are you already doing now weekend court? And are you okay with the 24 hours?
That's not my term, holiday court. That's kind of what's coming down.
Is that what that was? I think, because I know I was going down to Springfield and I.
There's already existing weekend court. There's court contract.
Yeah.
It's for the adults. They have implemented, the judge has implemented weekend court that was not included juveniles, which is holiday court. Holiday court is the same as weekend court. It's just Saturday. It's the terminology used by the judiciary. So.
And it, right, that whole, so the article that came out, and it kind of confused where others were at. There's also something that they were talking about, the video sentencing and other variables that I know our Chief Judge Shingstead was not in favor of.
I didn't see the article, so I'm not sure what you're referencing.
I will send it to you.
All right. Also, I should say that we are moving in the direction as starting to assess individuals. To, you know, money bond issue is something that the courts have been talking about. We are moving in the direction where John Prinzi is establishing specific individuals to start assessing people so that the judges can, really we're moving into the direction of electronic monitoring probably in the second half of 17 here. So we're setting up the processes right now. When we will exactly start, I'm not sure, but phase one is starting where we're actually going to be starting to assess individuals to identify those that we think would be considered for that. So, All right.
Okay, any questions for, Sharon? Okay, public health and safety, Judy?
Right, we just have two renewing contracts for Sunny Hill Nursing Home, one for housing supplies and the other for dietary and nursing products. It's the big thing. We had several presentations at the meeting, which were very good. We had the Sheriff's Department, they came out and gave us a great presentation on what they're doing, having trained all the police officers with the use of naloxone and the different saves they've had. And then we had Deputy Jurors come and speak about he talked about that, and then we had one of our guys from the drug enforcement unit come and speak about the different seizures they've had, and this one person they watched for like a month and a half and they got him, so that's really good. And there was an article in the paper on that. And then we've also had, of course, Anastasia, she came and gave a little presentation about our Hero and Helps. We had a big meeting. And then we had our TV annual report, and we also had Sue Lennox gave us a map overview from the health department. So it's pretty informational.
Any questions for, okay, then move on, legislative policies.
We did not have a meeting this month for the fact that everything that's going on down in Springfield, as everyone knows, nothing is going on. There's still the budget, and there's still just a lot of talk. All the deadlines have been met. I will say I got to go last week with Marvin McDermott, and we talked in front of the environmental group, lobbying group that was down there. We talked about our groundwater monitoring. So we went to the reception, Margot and I did, and the next day they went and lobbied the Capitol. So they were very receptive. You know, it was the Sierra kind of met, actually, Judy, some friends of yours that have been very involved. So
We're supportive by it.
oh, they were so supportive. And it wasn't even just that they were supportive. Everyone is, even legislators on both sides of the aisle. And just as important as this is, it's just hard to, you know, you're going down there and you're talking to legislators, but you're like, can you have a budget, and then can you get this thing? Right. So it's there. It's going to happen. I do believe. I don't know this year, but it's strong.
No, I think we have both sides of that.
Yes. No.
Who's going to bring it forward? That's always a good thing.
So, no, that was all good. And of course, the juvenile bill too is a big topic, and I was able to meet with Kelly Murray. So there's still a lot of things going on. We'll have a meeting, of course, next month, and then we can talk also about some federal issues in our visit.
Okay, any questions for Susan? Okay, then Caleb Prudence, Mike?
Yeah, we have, there's three things shown, but we're splitting number two into two items. The DLR group, we are going to amend their contract, but we're looking at things that they already did, we're amending the contract for, and some things that they're potentially going to do, and we'll review those at next Tuesday's capital meeting. So we'll actually, they save 2 spots for DLR. And then we have the awarding the contract with a communications tower, and we're amending the contract with Strong and Young to include some additional services to look at a SOG.
So do we need,
We're going to have 2.
we need to do that first?
Yes.
Right, he said just space, because it'll be heard next Tuesday.
Okay, so you make that motion?
So I make a motion to save a space for an
Additional DLR.
Right.
Yeah, this one space we're saving, the other one we just changed.
No, yeah, but it's not on the agenda,
It's not
so
on
you
this
need
agenda,
two
so we need
spaces.
2 spaces.
So you're making a motion about 2 spaces for,
Two spaces.
for DLR, resolution for DLR.
Right.
Okay, motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else, any questions for Mike? Any questions from the executive committee? Okay. Are there any public comments at this time? Public comments?
Jim, I just had one, wanted to let the committee know, and I will send out something for the whole board. Joanne Robinson, she was the founder of the Heart Organization. She had come with the little handcuffs a number of years ago, keep kids from Bolton.
She got some JAG money.
Yes, she had come to judicial a couple of times, and yet she passed away this week. Andrea called me yesterday, so I just wanted everybody to know, and I will send out, hopefully get the information today.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
one more time, any public comments? Okay, and, I have any comments by committee members? I have no comments as chair. So next I will get a motion. Oh, relax there, Speedy. Relax, okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the county board agenda as amended. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Oh, yeah.